Your Murray's good looking, yeah. So hush, little baby, don't you cry.
I'm Kelebogile Sephoti, some people call me T. I am a banker, actually. I work for a company called Maseko, but I get involved in initiatives like this that encourage entrepreneurship and innovation. So I recently partnered with Afritech. So yeah, we're running this event, as we've mentioned before, to just encourage the youth. Because I've spoken at events where we're looking at graduates, we're looking at young professionals, and I think it's time we go a bit more grassroots level. So that's what I do, and that's why I do it. I think, what a lot of people discount is that kids can no longer just be kids anymore, in terms of, from a very early stage, you need to start thinking about your future. And I'm not saying that people need to lose their childhood or people need to not be serious or to be too serious. But I think there's a certain level of information that our young generation needs to make informed decisions. Because unfortunately, you don't have the time, because by the time you reach 17, 18, you already have to make those hard decisions. So yeah, I think it's important for people to do more of this, to empower the youth to make those decisions they need.
Sometimes people become more cynical and you feel that certain doors are closed to you. Don't do that, because you could find that if you put in the work and the effort and you have the vision, you can get into those doors. As Phuti mentioned, it's not about being the best at this or having the best marks. It's about identifying those opportunities and going for them. So our next speaker is Maseko. So I've got a soft spot for her because she's from my university, which is Wits Waterstrand. Applied there. It's a great institution, very liberal, very progressive. But she did something that I couldn't. She got herself an honors in actuarial science. And if any of you have ever been exposed to actuarial science, I was in a first year maths class with actuarial science kids, and half of them dropped out by June and converted to accounting science or economics or such. So yeah, so Moga is the business.
So the whole concept or notion that only the people who go out and start their own businesses are the ones that we need in this country is probably very one-sided, right? But also the notion that only people who go out and become entrepreneurs are the creative ones, right? You can't be creative in a company. How many people think that? Who thinks you can't be creative in a company? If you go work for a company, your creative days are over. It depends. Tell me more about why it depends.
There's other people who have certain positions in companies.
Other people have certain positions in companies. Another answer?
I don't think companies encourage play and experiment. Not all companies.
You don't think that companies encourage playing and experimenting. Great answers. It depends where you are in the company, so it related to position, right? So where you are, as in if you're higher than things.
My name is Maseko. I am a young person in South Africa, based in Joburg. I work for FNB and head up the FNB Innovation Program. So I think it's, I suppose, doing talks where young people are, or doing talks with young people, is something we probably all need to do. There's a lot of young people around and a lot of young people who have the ability to do things that are going to change the country and the continent as a whole. So I think it's always important to give time back to speaking to young people, but also not to assume that we know it all, because we actually learn quite a lot from young people, as well as impart knowledge. Entrepreneurship in South Africa is obviously important. I think everyone talks about this and speaks about entrepreneurship and the importance thereof. I think what's more important is us coming up with businesses that are not just going to be small businesses, but we probably need businesses that are going to morph into like big full-on corporates, like the types of big companies like Discovery, like First Rand, because that's actually what's going to change the country and the continent. And I think it will grow. Entrepreneurship has to grow in this continent. Entrepreneurship is that important, because I'm not quite sure how we solve all the other problems that we have without effectively leveraging entrepreneurship. So the state of education in South Africa, I think we all know about the problems. We all know that we actually have a lot of work to do around the quality of education in this country. I think access is becoming less and less of an issue, but it's around the quality. Because in rural areas you can have kids going to school, but they're learning underneath a tree, right? Or not getting textbooks and so on. So I think it's definitely about the quality of education. But I think at the same time, we're lucky enough to see a lot of good things happening. You're seeing lots of interventions happening. You're seeing a lot of collaboration between government and private sector. And you're seeing a lot of private companies go into education and up the standard, but also adapt what education needs to be for the new generation. You're seeing a lot of people going in and using visual techniques for teaching or using technology for teaching and blended learning and bringing in elements around entrepreneurship or self-awareness. And I think there's pockets of excellence happening, and I think the biggest challenge for us is to get that to be more widespread.
Basically what we do, we host different kinds of events where we target different kinds of solutions or platforms to encourage people. For example, we have the E-Mindset, Entrepreneurial Mindset, whereby we invite learners from high schools, different kinds of high school, K-12, more prestigious high schools, and then we have them come together in one place. We have somebody from the technological aspect, somebody who's from education, somebody who's an entrepreneur. And then these people come, they present what they're doing, and they encourage the kids that, okay, this is what you can do as a student right now to increase things in technology. This is what you can do right now to increase things in the education system. This is what you can do to be an entrepreneur. So everybody has that platform, and basically we look at different different aspects, poverty, the education, and you see exactly what role you can play, whether using technology, education, or entrepreneurship, what role you can play. So that's E-Mindset. And what's the other one, Kele?
So we have other events that do take place. So this year we're organizing an Africa Innovation Summit for Education. It's still underway and we're still in the strategy phase, but what we found is, in as much as we have the Entrepreneurial Mindset Convention with the high school kids, it's often very difficult to translate what they've learned when they go back to an environment that is still the same. So their parents are the same, the schools are the same, the institutions are the same. And so it becomes very difficult for them to have some kind of impact or change in that particular environment. So we want to focus on the institutions, the teachers and the principals to also have a different mindset about education in this country and how they can incorporate things like technology to make it easier for high school kids to study. We were saying a little earlier on that it's no longer about the retention of knowledge, but it's more about the accessibility of information that people can get. If we at this day and age don't know an answer to a particular situation, we can easily use any search engine and get that answer. So, and that's the movement that we're walking into and heading into. So the purpose of why we started Afritechnisation was because we saw there was a gap, a huge gap, especially in the education space. There's new technologies that are being developed on a daily basis, and we felt like Africa and South Africa in particular were lagging behind. So it's always important to try and mitigate that huge inequality gap that we are facing through the use of education in terms of solving some of our socioeconomic challenges. So some of these challenges include high poverty rates in South Africa, high unemployment rates and crime rates that we are facing. And so yes, EdTech is one of the solutions that we found very interesting to pursue. There's innovation, there's technology, there's entrepreneurship that young people in this continent can really look into and move onto.
Looking at the gap that we have and with the efforts that we are currently we're doing as Afritechnisation, is that there's a lot more that we still have to do in terms of reaching and relating to your K-12 schools, to your kids that actually are not exposed to much more than just the next door neighbor who's just finished matric and ends there, you know. So that's Afritechnisation, bridging that gap, relating to these kids to say that there's more than just you finishing matric. There's you know, becoming an entrepreneur, thinking, looking for opportunities, innovation. So that's the gap we bridge as Afritechnisation, and every time we do such events, that's, you know, we just hope that one child out of it and, you know, can take that and run with it. So with the feedback sessions, and every year as it gets better and better, that's what we're getting from the events and from Afritechnisation as a whole.
Okay. Yeah, and also to create a movement of young people who are motivated. You know, there's so many challenges in our country, and the biggest mistake we make is to depend on government. So we want to ignite people that there's something that you can do, whether it's in the education sector, you can use technology. It doesn't even have to be a school per se, but whatever problem society is facing, you can be the solution. That's basically what we're trying to do, keep them motivated.
So with this year's entrepreneurial mindset, we were able to invite schools, your private schools and your K-12. K-12 being schools that pay very minimal. And you could actually see the exposure that each group had. You know, others didn't have much exposure. They were limited to policeman, you know, teacher, and so forth. With the others, you know, I mean, they know what's an actuary. They already know what's a pilot. You're going to be a pilot. I already know what's happening, you know, the happenings to become a pilot. So it was very interesting to really interact with these students, where others are just like, oh, yeah, I'm just here, you know, to enjoy. But others are really here to learn, and I think most importantly, that's what we wanted them to mingle, to actually, you know, get to see a person who lives in Sandton, whereas they live in Soweto, and they're trying to understand, you know, how is it there, you know? So taking those things for granted, we're actually trying to say that, hello, you know, there's more than just the life that you're living. And with them being able to meet up with schools, your private schools, it probably opened another avenue, another, you know, thought process for them and so forth.
So I'm going to be talking about who wants to be an entrepreneur. Is anybody that wants to be an entrepreneur here? Okay, a few people. So for the rest of you, you can go to sleep. I'll talk to the few people. But this is something that's really important, because often when we look at entrepreneurs, we think of SMMEs. What are SMMEs? Okay? So small, medium, and micro enterprises, right? So, but the reality is that whilst a business may start small, it doesn't mean that it will end there, right? Think of some of the large organizations that we have in this country that have actually only been here for just a few years. What do you think is the area that is going to be critical for us as we grow our economy? As we grow our economy, we need new entrepreneurs. We need people that are going to be coming up with new ideas of what they can be doing in terms of growing businesses so that we can grow the economy. Or do you think that everybody here should go and join an organization and be a professional? Or an artist, or, you know, whatever career it is that they choose? We need to have some people, not everyone, but we need to have some people that are actually going to be starting businesses. It's going to be critical, because that is what growth is about. Growth is about being able to create. And when you look at many of the organizations that we have around the world, you look at organizations like Apple, Facebook, many of these organizations, these are all new organizations. And if you're going to be looking at growing economies, you need to be looking at new ideas and things that you can think up and come up with, which will be looking at growing economies. And certainly, if we're going to be growing the economy of South Africa, we need to be looking at starting new businesses. That's going to be critical.
It's very difficult for me to talk about the youth in South Africa, but the youth that I interact with, the township youth, mostly they don't know what is out there for them. So they just live each day as it comes. So if you talk to them, you probably ask them about their goals, there isn't much there. So they don't see themselves as players in the global stage. I don't know where that comes from, but that is basically what I find. Very few of them would be having big dreams. Some of them don't even know that they have to dream. They've got the right to dream. I'm telling you the honest truth, especially with Sonmo Bane. She was very, she was at their level. She was telling them things that they could relate to. I'm glad that I brought them here. Being part of the learners that are all here, they were very quiet, but what I've been telling them at school all the time, that you've got to be out there. There are players with you, players like you out there. You can't be sitting here and just folding your arms, and people must play the game for you when you can. So they saw that firsthand, and but I'm glad that they were exposed to this, especially #innovation. That it's not somebody else out there who can be innovative. They too, they must learn to spot opportunities and grab them and come up with ideas.
I'm Nomatia Malda from Phoenix College. I'm a teacher. I teach economics, accounting, and business studies. I think it's always an advantage for our learners to attend because they always get information about entrepreneurship, which they don't get, especially from us, the teachers, because we don't have some of that information. But it becomes understandable for them when maybe they get the information from the people who are entrepreneurs. We must encourage more entrepreneurs, more people to be entrepreneurs, especially with our country where we are having a high unemployment rate, because the entrepreneurs, I think, they are going to employ more people, they're going to create more jobs, especially for those who are unemployed. So it's really a good idea, especially when we want to achieve economic growth.
Personally, I feel as though as South African children and as the youth, it's better if we have like a tertiary education, because it sort of sets our foundation for the future, but at the same time, there aren't really enough jobs to like make us get like education, if that makes sense. And but at the same time, I feel as though it's all in the mindset. If you have like, if you're creative and you're innovative, you could have like a bright future. It isn't really determined by a tertiary education, even though it is a perk and it is a bonus.
For me personally, I don't think it's such a need, but I think that if you do go like into the future, like it will help you, like it will equip you with the stuff you need. Education is very important, but you could be educated but not intelligent. So the things that are really needed is talent, passion, and I guess innovation. So you don't really need it, but it's gonna help you like in terms of equipping you in the future.
Okay, in my opinion, I think that you don't need a tertiary education, basically because when you have talent, it sort of lays a bar for you in your life, how you're going to succeed. A lot of people succeed without tertiary education. We can make example like Benjamin Franklin didn't, the Windows guy, but at the end of the day, I think it's about your drive, your passion and motivation that's makes you succeed, yeah.
Okay, I think tertiary education is of utmost importance. Why I say that? Because you can equip yourself with the necessary skills, but also with the evolving technology, you need to have connections. You can have a job title but not have a job. So connections and networking is also of importance. So together with tertiary, we have a really good schooling system, but the attendance is really poor because we have such a percentage of people that are, in poverty, and they can't go to schools because of malnutrition, lack of proper sanitation. So that actually deprives them of having a proper schooling.
Inspired, they instilled a lot of knowledge within what they were saying, so obviously my brain is now more broader into entrepreneurship, into business. Now I can envision the future for a developing country like South Africa.